And thank you all for having me here. Like Deborah mentioned, I'm Adrianna. So I've been working at Trinity Lutheran Church in Richmond and Killarney Community Lutheran Church in Vancouver for about 3 years now. I'm in my third year. And it's been a really great learning opportunity, lots of helpful challenges along the way, and lots of like growing opportunities. So as I was planning my talk for you ladies today, Deborah had given me kind of a list of things that she would like for me to share and focus on. And one of those things was kind of just sharing a little bit about myself, where I come from, kind of how I got to this position. So I don't really like talking about myself, but I will try to give you a brief synopsis of where I kind of felt the spark and God's calling to do church and mission type work. And then I'll also talk a little bit more about what my actual job is and what it kind of involves, some of the challenges, some of the highlights, and just some encouragements that I've gotten from that as well too. So to kind of get an idea of how I came to be here, I thought I would kind of share a little bit of my own personal faith journey. Because it's been a wild ride. God has definitely taken me on some twists and turns that were unexpected. So everything kind of starts where I typically start or share my answer when people ask me, well, where did you get the inkling, or when did you start feeling God like working in you to do missions work or to want to work in the church? And I usually go back to my confirmation class. So my home congregation where I grew up was St. Peter's Lutheran Church, Simcoe, Ontario. My family started attending there, I think just before I started confirmation. We were in between churches at the moment. And just getting to learn from Pastor Abraham there about scripture, about the catechism, and just really expanding my own knowledge in faith, and getting to know his wife Alita and their daughters as well, like making those bonds and friendships, and just like having that church community really opened me up to the possibilities of different service opportunities and different ways to share and get outside the church to share faith and evangelize in a way. So one of the big opportunities that I had as a teenager, I was grade 11, I think. The math is not mathing, but I think it was grade 11 thereabout in high school. I went with a team from my church in Simcoe. We were paired with a team in London, Ontario as well, and we went to Jinotepe, Nicaragua. So this was my first time out of the country. This was my first international mission trip or mission trip in general. And it was a really, really amazing experience for me. I was very emotional when I came back. We had done a week-long vacation Bible school at a local school that was on Christmas break. So we shared Bible stories. I did a bunch of different songs with the kids, and we really got to connect. Even though there was a pretty big language barrier, I learned a couple words. And we got to do crafts, and we also got to help with some construction projects. And I think for me, having that experience for the first time in a developing nation where people have basically shacks or very, very rudimentary homes, maybe not to the extent that we're used to in Canada with stable walls and heating and plumbing and running water. Different things like that. It really hit me hard when I got home. Just thinking about, I guess, the difference or the nuance between how happy these people were to have us there, how open and generous and hospitable they were to having us there, when they had so little themselves, and that their hearts were so big for God, wanting to hear God's word, wanting to hear the Bible stories, wanting to engage with us. And that experience, it really touched me, and it has stayed with me all these years since as well. But that was definitely, I think, for me, like the biggest spark where I felt, wow, I want to do this for my life, kind of. So that's definitely where it started. So after that as well, getting to grow up in Simcoe, I also had the opportunity to meet some pretty important people that became pretty significant mentors in my life as well. So Dr. Jennifer Frim was at the time when I was in high school just finishing her master's at McMaster in Ontario in Hamilton. So she attended St. Peter's because Pastor Abraham had been her pastor when he was in Winnipeg. So there was the connection there as well. And I got to spend some time with her. She told me about a university in Edmonton and the diaconal program and different things like that. So getting to connect with her through also like youth retreats in the area as well made me decide that, okay, I wanna go to Concordia University in Edmonton. And I had applied. I had decided I wanted to do their 4-year diaconal program to become a church worker. I had applied, I'd been accepted, and then I think a couple months, about 4 or 5 months before I was set to start my studies in the fall, I got a phone call saying, "Oh, this program has been cut. You were the only person interested. We don't have enough students. This program is no longer available." So that was tough news to hear. There were definitely some tears. I was like, God, I thought you wanted me to go here. I thought this was the plan. It was all worked out in my mind, but I guess not in God's plan exactly. So I thought about it. I prayed about it. I talked to some people, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to go anyway. I'll go study and do my undergrad, and that's what I did. Instead of doing the diaconal program, I ended up doing a 4-year Bachelor of Arts degree, majoring in religious studies and minoring in English, with the hope and discussion that I had had from the seminary saying, we're working on developing a program that you can go into later. So that was kind of talked about right at the start when I started my studies in 2015, that like, we don't have it yet, but hold on, it'll be here in the future. So I did my degree. That took a bit longer than I had anticipated too. Mental health struggles as a young student being in a different province. My first year, I also worked 4 jobs and had a full course load, so I was overdoing it a little bit. But yeah, just trying to keep up with everything, but I made it through, got finished. And I definitely, in retrospect, see how God was still working in me and giving me different opportunities while I was in Edmonton as well. I got to work in places like Roblin, Manitoba. I was the camp director for 2 summers at Jack Bish Lutheran Bible Camp. I got to work for a couple years under Michael Gillingham at Bethel Lutheran Church as a youth leader assistant. So he also became a really great mentor for me in just wanting to be able to do church work and kind of seeing what the possibilities were there. And I also got to work at places like the King's University, a Christian university very close to Concordia. I also worked at Concordia too as a student, but after I graduated, I went elsewhere as well too. So there was lots of different ways that God was preparing me, I think, for things ahead, even though I wasn't exactly doing what I wanted to do or hadn't gotten to continue in the educational direction that I had wanted to yet. Oh, I have a map here. So I grew up in Ontario. I forgot to mention that. So I was born on the island, like Deborah had mentioned. So my grandparents, both my parents were born here, grew up here, but I grew up in Ontario because we moved when I was about 4 years old. So when I moved to Alberta, it was a pretty big move, not just hopping over from BC. It was all the way from Ontario. So we did that drive quite a few times. It was pretty fun. It was a nice change. So some other silver linings as well that I was able to, I guess, experience during my studies as well were some pretty significant travel opportunities. I was able to receive a research grant, as well as being selected as a LCC Young Adult Representative for the CLWR trip to the Holy Land for a global encounter. So I got to go to the Holy Land. I got to see different things that I was learning about in my biblical scholarly courses. We got to go to Jerusalem, different parts of Israel, a bit of Jordan as well, and it really kind of just opened up things that I had been reading and so consumed by was now real and physically present in front of me, which was super impactful. So this is a picture, the water, that's the Jordan River from the Jordanian side, the Wailing Wall, a part of the Dead Sea Scrolls, and the Sea of Galilee were just a couple of the spots that we were able to stop at. And I was just so grateful to have that opportunity, and at very minimal cost as well too. I was able to just through the research grants and different things that it became more accessible, which was a huge blessing, because otherwise, like in my wildest dreams, that never would have been possible. Also, during my studies at Concordia, I also had the opportunity to travel with the Lutheran Bible translators on, they call it a crossroads trip. They go every couple of years. It's for individuals who are seriously considering missions work as a career journey. So they style it as a trip of discernment. So we got to go to Ethiopia, and we stayed with a missionary couple there. And they took us around to different language groups to show us the various projects that they have in progress in translating to the Bible into their different language of sects, which was also just such an eye-opening opportunity, and just a really remarkable experience in that as well. So this was somewhere in Ethiopia. They got to show us like some of the literary books that they use to help teach children how to even read the various languages too, because some of them are just like oral languages, not all of them are written down. So that was just such a rewarding experience to get to see as well. So even though things didn't necessarily go my way or the way I thought it was going to go, God was definitely still working and pulling the strings in the background. So that brings me to, how did I end up back in BC? That was also something that I was not expecting at all. There was a point after I had graduated where I was kind of in a pretty tough spot, trying to decide, okay, am I going to move home to work at Redeemer University, or am I going to take this job offer at King's? So I wasn't sure whether I was going to stay in Alberta, whether I was going to go back to Ontario. I had also had a job offer in Lethbridge as kind of a church worker as well too, that had kind of fallen through. They decided to call someone who was actually rostered. So yeah, I was kind of a little angry with God and confused, and like I thought he wanted me to do this, but I guess he had other plans. So I guess I would say, yeah, it was definitely God's hand in how I heard about this position as it was opening. So you might be familiar with Samantha Neeb. She was in this role before me, and she was preparing her exit from the role so that she could go complete her studies at the seminary. She and I had met a couple times through like the Synodical Convention, and also through my work at Bethel Lutheran Church as well too. So we'd connected, we knew each other. She knew that I wanted to do similar work, and she had reached out to me and said, hey, we're hiring. Do you want to talk to the pastors or like send them your resume? And I did that. I was very content with my current position. I was working at the King's University. I'd been there just about a year at that point and had been promoted to recruitment manager. So I was set. I was okay with where I was working for a bit, but then this kind of just came into my lap, and talked with the pastors. I did a formal interview, and that was kind of how we got connected. I prayed about it. I talked to a couple mentors after the job offer was officially made, and I definitely viewed it as like a blessing from God that this came to me, because I'd been wanting so long to be able to do this type of work. That it was just such an answer to prayer that something finally came up. So now I am in the position, this is my third year, working for both Trinity and Richmond and for Killarney. Okay, so another big question. So my job title is a little misleading. So the job title is youth director. And yes, I do work with youth. It's quite a big part of what I do. But I also do a lot of other things. I plan Sunday school, especially for Killarney. I teach confirmation classes. I assist at Trinity, and I do pretty much all the confirmation for Killarney. I lead youth Bible studies. I lead young adult Bible studies, and I lead a weekly women's Wednesday morning Bible study as well. We're actually looking at the book of Proverbs, so the theme verse for this was very on point. We've been looking at that. I also lead monthly youth fellowship events, usually once or twice a month. I lead young adults fellowships as well, again, once or twice a month. We go on various trips and retreats. I'm also the co-leader for our LAMP mission team, so all the fundraising and planning for that trip is up to me. I also assist our daycare. I do their little calendars and newsletters that go out to the parents every month, and assist them with like their Bible curriculum and things so that it's under the Lutheran purview. I also plan community and family fellowship events, more so for Killarney. We've done campfires and different like evening events where the community is welcome to come, usually get a free meal, and then have Bible study or various activities like that. And then another big component of my job is planning, implementing various larger annual events. So this past weekend, we had our biggest event of the year, which is our Resurrection Easter egg hunts. So I had one on Saturday for Trinity, and then the second on Sunday for Killarney. And those we usually get quite a few kids as well. And then other outreach events include Killarney always has a Canada Day barbecue, which is another opportunity for us to kind of open our church doors, inviting the community in, and just trying to share the good news as well, but also having fellowship with them. I also handle all our social media content as well, so Facebook page, Instagram, things like that. And I'm in charge of the vacation Bible camps, whether we do those in the summer or the winter, and probably several other things that I don't have on this list. There's a lot of administrative work in the background too that sometimes comes up. But for someone like me, I love this because my days are never the same. It's always a little bit different. Maybe one morning I'm cooking sausages because it's breakfast for the youth after a sleepover, or another day I'm sitting in my office preparing a Bible study. It's never the same. And I really like that. It keeps me on my toes. There are certain tasks that do need to get done on a regular basis, but yeah, I like the challenge of it always being a little bit different, and adapting to that as well too. And we'll dive into that a little bit more. So these are just a couple photos from some past events at Killarney. So down on the far right here, my right, your left, we did a large Christmas dinner at a restaurant with very authentic Chinese food. Then we have some pictures. These two little girls with the face paint, that's from our Canada Day event. And then this bottom group photo here is just from this past weekend from our Easter egg hunt. We had quite a few volunteers, which was really great. At the Killarney event, we had about 37 children, which was a bit more than we had last year that attended for the Easter egg hunt. We also had bunnies and face painting and a lovely lily craft for families to do. We've also done like a weenie roast and campfires with a movie night around Halloween. And sometimes for Sunday school, the kids get to go outside and play with chalk and different things like that. So just a couple photos there. And then I have a couple photos from Trinity. So Trinity definitely has a bigger youth population as well. So most of these photos are from our youth events. I believe the top corner here, that's from our Easter event. They're making a craft there. They're painting over a cross to get an outline. We have a Halloween celebration where we got to talk about ghosts and angels and demons in the Bible, and also dressed up. We also went on a ginormous greatest ice cream hunt. We actually did it twice because we weren't able to go to all the places. But I rented a van and we drove to different spots, and they got to taste ice cream and decide at the end which was the best. So I do find that the youth at Trinity in particular really enjoy the fellowship events. So sometimes we're doing crazy things like that, and then other times we're focusing on scripture as well. I also have pictures of us going sledding at Mount Seymour. This bottom photo down here is from going to the Richmond night market. The kids really love food, so we usually include food sometimes, but we also try to stay on a budget. And then these bottom photos here are from a couple weeks ago. We did a sleep out over their March break. So for Covenant House in Vancouver, they're a shelter that helps support teenagers to young adults who are experiencing homelessness or are affected by human trafficking and different things like that. So in solidarity to that, we slept outside our church for an entire night. It got down to 2 degrees, I think, so not super cold, but cold. But there was a group of about 7 of us, and we stayed all night, slept outside, and we raised just under $600 towards Covenant House, which I was really proud of the kids for. Some of them did sleep in tents, some of them slept on cots, but it was good. So yeah, just a couple things going on at Trinity. So I thought I would start with the rough and then get into the good. Yeah, have the good, the bad, and then the good. So some challenges that I've faced personally in my job, and potentially other people in similar work might face this too, is just people. God made us fearfully and wonderfully, but sometimes we get on each other's nerves. Sometimes we have different opinions. Sometimes people really don't like change. If you're a new person, or if you want to try something different, even something as simple as maybe not having coffee hour after service, or maybe sending emails instead of phone calls, so it can rub some people the wrong way. So one of the big challenges for me is just managing different opinions, not at just one congregation, but at 2 congregations. Because while one thing might work really well at Trinity and people would get really excited about it, that might not be the same response at Killarney. So trying to adapt to what the needs are at each congregation, and also emboldening and empowering the people that are also active at each congregation so that they want to be involved and help out with things too. So sometimes it's like herding cats or pulling teeth, and sometimes it's not. Sometimes people, like especially for Easter, people are always really, really happy to help. But I would say, yeah, that is one of the more difficult challenges, is just, continuing to show God's grace and love, and working with people where they're at as well. Another thing that has come up multiple times through these past couple of years is just fundraising and volunteer fatigue. I find that with our lamp trip, and then with also fundraising for our youth activities and different things like that, while our congregation is also encouraged to fundraise or support other causes as well too, they're just fatigued. They're done. They're like, it's too much. So trying to balance that as well. And I'm not sure if it's similar at your congregations, but I do find that for each, we have a lot of the same people that volunteer for everything. And then nobody else wants to come help because they know everybody else will do it. So trying to encourage even the younger folks just to come in and help, to take some of the stress off of those other volunteers. That's another challenge that we're working on. And just trying to empower, especially the youth, to step into those roles to help fill, because they're also our present, trying to give them the opportunity to help in something that they like to be involved in. Like right now we have one young man who helps with our audio pretty much every Sunday, and he does a fantastic job with it. And then we have some young adults who always help with the candles as well too. So finding jobs that work for them as well too, that doesn't overtire them as well. So it's a fun balance. Again, herding cats sometimes, but a fun balance to find. When I first got to Vancouver, I definitely, one of the things that hit me fairly hard was kind of a lack, or just a very low servant mindset. There wasn't a lot of focus on trying to help others around us. There was a lot of focus on me, 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 me. I want more, I'm going to take more, in particular with the youth. So that's been something that I've slowly been trying to mold them away from, especially with our sleep out events and different things like that, trying to get them to think of the bigger picture, that yes, it's important that we take care of ourselves, but there are things beyond us too that we need to think about and care for, and help. So that has also been, I would say, a welcome challenge, because even though I've been here a short time, I'm starting to see it slowly get better. I was pleasantly surprised that I had 7 youth and 1 young adult show up for the sleep out, because at first I thought it was just going to be me and Pastor Brian. So, which we still would have done it, but they came and they were happy to do it. Might not be so eager to do it again, but I'm going to let them warm up for the rest of the year, and we'll try again in the new year. But yeah, just trying to have that kindness and that servant heart and willingness to serve has been a big thing that we've been working on. Life's priorities. That has also been very interesting. Having worked a little bit in Alberta and then coming to another province, I definitely see quite a bit of a difference. And I'm not trying to compare or say one is better than the other, but they're just, different life priorities. When I worked in Alberta, people were willing to come for a Wednesday night Bible study. It was easy enough for them to do. Whereas where we're positioned, in particular in Richmond and Vancouver, people don't want to drive late at night, especially if the weather's bad, which I understand. Nobody does, right? You might get in a car accident. Or children have sporting events, which they had in Alberta too, but there's more than just sports. There's art classes, there's music lessons and tutoring and all these other things. Like the children have activities on their activities. So typically, most of my youth I only see in church on Sunday. They're not willing to come those extra times during the week. And sometimes they're from further away too. We'll have families coming in from Delta or North Vancouver. So they also don't want to deal with the traffic more than once a week. So trying to adjust and accommodate that. And also more so for our young adults too. If they're in a highly successful place of work, we have quite a few accountants, I would say, as well too, within our young adult community. They're working like all week, sometimes even on the weekend. So we're lucky if we get to see them on Sunday. So just trying to help balance and find time and space for them to have that fellowship and community can be difficult. It's definitely adjustments. It's taken some trial and error, but we're getting there. So it just, I guess it depends on the person and where their heart is, because a lot of them want to be in church, but they're very focused on their career. And that is a tough thing to weigh and balance. And then another big challenge, I would say mostly more in regards to the youth, is the influence of media and just things that they're hearing in school too. So a lot of kids are now growing up with like very close friends who are transgender or starting that process. So trying to make space for them to like ask questions or have an opinion on that too and vocalize that. Or just the constant battle of trying to get them off their phone while we're in Bible study or putting the phone away too. So you might also experience that as well. So those are the bigger challenges that I've faced here and there. So now onto the more fun side, because it isn't all bad. I really appreciate the challenges because it's opportunities to grow and to work towards something better. Over the past couple of years, especially now that we have confirmands again, I have just loved seeing the eagerness of the children to learn and to ask questions, and just the engagement that they actually have in the studies. That has been wonderful to see. They're always, they like to stump me. They like to give me challenges or to give our pastor challenges too. And I just think that's so great that they're actually engaged and really thinking about these things, because that's the time to be doing it. I also always look forward to our LAMP mission trip every year. I've only gotten to go for 1 year because I was sick the first year, but this year we're really looking forward to going back in August. It is a highlight for sure for anybody who's involved. It was a really wonderful experience. The past year, we've kept in contact with some of the contacts we made as well, and just being able to share God's word in a vacation Bible school there and being present and unplugged as well from like media and computers was just such a beautiful opportunity. And then also having my youth come up to me on Sunday saying, "Oh, when is our next event? When do we get to go on the donut hunt? Or when do we get to go on this retreat?" Just their eagerness and desire to want to get together and actually hang out at the church and do stuff is really great, because I would be very, very sad if they didn't want to do that. But it makes me happy too, knowing that they want to do these things, that they're having fun, that these kids are inviting their friends even to come along to these activities. And that's just great. Because even if we are doing a fellowship more style event, there is still time for prayer. There's still time to talk about important questions in life too. Even if I'm driving, I'll try to answer them. But I just think that's such a neat opportunity too, to meet them where they're at and in a kind of a fun, joyful, playful style. And then also further opportunities for involvement as well too. So we're We're still trying to get more of our youth involved in our LAMP opportunity. A lot of our families at both churches usually are gone the entire summer traveling. Some kids have gone to Japan. They've been everywhere. So sometimes it's harder to get them involved in missions and summer Bible camp because they're away traveling. But having opportunities like the sleep out or different fundraisers to support our LAMP mission or other ways to just serve in the church is a way that we're trying to get them more involved. And I'm really excited that we're starting to see more involvement or eagerness for people to sign up for that. So I would say that's also a highlight. Okay. I hope I'm not going over time. So some encouragements or thoughts I wanted to share as well too. Now I'm no expert. I'm going to say that right up front. I'm not a rostered church worker. Still working towards that. And I'm not an expert on youth, but from my learned experience with youth, young adults, and just young people in general, I do get the impression that young people are just looking for a place to belong. They want to be loved unconditionally. They want to be able to ask the weird questions and not be shunned. So it's important that we make church a place where they can do that, where it's a safe space that they can ask those questions without being judged. I think sometimes it's a really missed opportunity when, for instance, if we get a new person in on a Sunday and they ask like, oh, do you guys agree with like the LGBTQ plus? And we just say no. Like you're kind of stopping before you can even really start a discussion. It's important to give them the opportunity to ask more questions or be a little more open. It's important for us to stay firm in our beliefs and our boundaries, but it's also a good opportunity for us to, start a conversation and let those conversations grow into more. Building ministry also takes time. Nothing does happen overnight. So if you're saying like, oh, we should have a youth program like yesterday, it takes time. And there's also natural ebbs and flows in church populations too. Like sometimes you have a really big Sunday school class, and then those kids get older, and now you have a youth group. And then they get older, and now it's a big young adult group. So it takes time to develop that. It takes time and encouragement and prayer really as well too. So if you're making an inviting space and you're making a safe space where people can belong and hear about God's good news, then you're doing a good thing, right? It doesn't have to happen overnight. And also don't be scared of changes or trying new things. I think sometimes we get really caught up in, oh, this is how we've always done it. Or for instance, we've always had a Christmas potluck right before Christmas. We must do this every single year. Sometimes that's not always possible. We need to be a little more fluid and open with things, or being willing to try something that might be a little scary or new to see how things go. And if it doesn't go well, then that's a learned experience. And then one really big thing that I have learned over the years too is just not to get caught up in numbers. I think people kind of gauge like, oh, how successful was your event? How many people attended? How many youth are going? How many people showed up? I am happy if one kid shows up, right? And I think that's something that we need to focus on too. Like if one kid shows up to your event, that's amazing, right? You have an opportunity to talk with them, even one-on-one. Like that is an amazing opportunity, right? To be able to speak to them about God, or just to have general fellowship with them too. Like, yes, it is fun to have 20 kids. It's very chaotic. But yeah, it is more enjoyable for everybody, or it can be, but it can be just as good having one person as well too. So I think if you go back to your congregations and talk about things like this too, is like, don't get caught up in the numbers. Like, yes, they're important at a certain point, but especially as you're starting out, like be happy, be excited for that one or two that show up. right? Don't say, oh, I'm sorry, I wish there were more people here. You're already cutting yourself off at the legs, right? You have an opportunity here. You have two people that you can enjoy fellowship and time with. And I think being present with that is really important, really something that we can all work on together as well. So that brings me to the end of my presentation. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments? I will try to answer. Yeah.
How many hours of the week do you have?
Oh, that's a good question. My contract, I think I'm only supposed to do 35, but sometimes it's 60. Yeah, yeah, it depends on the week, especially if we're doing like the bigger events, like Easter events. Those are easily 10 to 12-hour days. So it kind of ebbs and flows. Oh, thank you.
I wondered how many of you there were when you were giving us a list of your duties for the.
Oh yeah, no,
that's. You are there.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's me. I am really grateful because I am splitting my time between two congregations, I do have a core group of adult volunteers at both churches. So I alternate my Sundays between Killarney and Trinity. So when I'm not at Trinity, I have a young adult gentleman who teaches my Bible study class. Or when I'm not at Killarney doing Sunday school, there's a rotation of ladies who come in and teach Sunday school as well. So having people like that and supports like that make it possible for me to not lose my mind. Otherwise, it'd be a little crazy. But I am grateful for those helpers because they're key to keeping things going. And it is really important to have volunteers like that too if you're trying to start a ministry, because if parents or people in the congregation aren't willing to step up into those roles, it's really hard to get anything off the ground. Yeah.
You had a sister there at the beginning wall. Are they allowed as a non-Jewish to stand there?
Yes.
Yes,
we were allowed to go up. I think we had to have our heads covered. I think I took my hat off because I was praying. But we there was a section for men and there was a section for women, so we were allowed to go up to the wall and touch it. And we could leave a prayer if we wanted. They were falling out of the wall, the cracks. But yeah, very, very humbling experience.
And yeah. Living in Ontario, St. Catherine's Seminary wasn't an option for?
No, unfortunately, no. So at present, the only seminary that has a diaconal program is Edmonton, or had, well, it was at the university. It was part of Concordia University of Edmonton. It was a 4-year undergrad. That was their diaconal training that got cut. And now at the Edmonton Seminary, it's a 2-year graduate diploma, and it's only offered at the Edmonton Seminary. So St. Catherine's, they do have like a master's degree and some other things, but not diaconal training. I've also looked at seminaries in the States, and that's a whole other kettle of fish, but yeah, absolutely.
So are you taking the courses now?
At the moment, I'm not. I'm kind of trying to focus on work. When I had applied to the seminary after I graduated, they had looked over my application and they didn't say no, but they said not yet. There were some things they wanted me to work on, in particular paying off debt. So I'm kind of focusing on working and paying down debt that I had accumulated over my studies. I'm still thinking about potentially going into either the diaconal program or maybe a master's program, but I'm trying to focus on like health and finances at the moment, but looking towards that in the future. But yeah, not presently studying.
Yeah. What is the demographic of the two congregations, both age-wise and ethnic background?
Oh, that's an excellent question. So Killarney is more of an older congregation, and their main population is Chinese, Cantonese speaking. That's pretty much 99% of the congregation. But the children that I see there's about 8 regular children. I have 3 confirmands, so that's 10 between the ages of 10 to 14, and then about 5 other Sunday school aged children ranging from 6 to 8 years old as well too, so much smaller group. And then the rest of the congregation, there are some young adults, so mostly the parents of the young kids that are involved in my classes. And then it's definitely a more older population that attend there. And they have usually about 60 to 70 in their Chinese services. And then they also have an English service in the morning as well, which is usually about up to 10 people. So much, much smaller demographic there as well. And then Trinity, on the other hand, it is a much larger congregation. They can get anywhere from 60 to 80 people on a Sunday. They have a Chinese congregation that is Mandarin speaking. So they meet earlier, usually 9:30 a.m., and they're a pretty large fellowship as well themselves. They can get anywhere from, again, 60 to 80 members on a Sunday. And then the English service is later that day, and again, another 60 to 80 of English speaking. There are individuals that go to both, that like to go to the Mandarin and the English service. So there are a couple bilingual individuals as well too, but very large Chinese populations for both. Yeah, just different dialects. So the Cantonese and the Mandarin, which is very interesting, and can sometimes, I think when I first came out, was a bit of a challenge, just the culture shock as well too. I was fortunate enough to have had the chance to go to China when I was in university for a Model United Nations event. So I'd been in China and kind of experienced that a bit, and I stuck out like a sore thumb, not just the height, but the blonde hair and everything. And I grew up with friends. Some of my best friends are Chinese or Filipino as well. So I'd had a bit more, maybe not quite assimilation, but experience with that exposure. Thank you. Yeah, that's the word. Exposure to that culture. And it kind of just got expanded when I came, which I'm really grateful for. I think it's such a beautiful culture to learn about. We always do, one of the big celebrations is for Chinese New Year. They always do a large potluck. There's lots of red everywhere because that's a lucky, happy color for them. But getting to hear, we have a Chinese choir at both congregations. But they always sing as well at usually Easter and Christmas and things like that. But yeah, getting not just to share the gospel, but also sharing it with people who are from a different culture is like such a cool experience as well. Yeah. Yeah. I can say mi fen, which is rice. I did start Duolingo. I was trying to learn a bit of Mandarin because I wanted to know what they were whispering. But I only know like bing cha is like iced tea. I know a couple basic words, but we'll just say the owl on Duolingo is very angry at me right now, and I need to start again. But yeah, I would like to learn more in future. Yeah, I think it would help. But luckily, a lot of the youth are very bilingual too. So if we ever go out and somebody doesn't speak English, they translate. So they also help, which is nice. Yeah.
Describe what youth are going through at this time, whether it's problems in school or with peers or
Yeah, absolutely. So right now, I would say the biggest things that have been coming up with my youth at Trinity is I have 4 of them who are about to graduate high school this year. So trying to figure out what they're going to do after, waiting for their acceptance letters, but also the tension that they have with their parents of saying, like, my mother is very strict on certain things within the religion, whereas the child expresses to me that, oh, I have kind of differing opinions. So kind of that coming of age of, okay, what do I pick and choose from what my mother or my parents have taught me, and what part of this faith is my own, has come up quite a bit. Also just like different dynamics of like dating or like, dating, social things. There are a couple of the kids, like after the Tumblr Ridge incident too, that became quite a hot topic, because several of my youth have friends in school that are transgender, and they were very upset by, I guess, talk after about the kid who had done such a horrible act, and then I think they also had died. But just having that experience and then seeing their friend, and then their parents not accepting their friend, I think like just that tension does come up quite a bit. as well too. So I would say those dynamics. And sometimes it's just general emotional things too, of like, I'm so stressed. I have all these exams. Where is God? Why am I stuck like this? That does come up quite a bit, as well too. But for the most part, I would say I'm very grateful that the youth feel comfortable enough to talk to me about these things, or to confide in me, or with our pastor as well too, because I don't know where they would go, some of them, if they didn't have church. So that is something that is definitely a silver lining, that they have that community as well to talk to. But yeah, mostly school and social things that come up, or like the hot topic issues as they come. I know we had quite a lengthy discussion after the Charlie Kirk shooting as well too. So the older youth that I have are very on top of things when it comes to the news and things going on. And then I also have a couple of young adults who struggle quite a bit socially. I have two young adults in particular at Trinity who are very highly autistic. And they always come to the events, which I'm so grateful for, because they're always fun to have around. But sometimes they also have different challenges in understanding. They've commented to me like, "Oh, I don't want to do Bible study. It's too serious." And I think it's because they aren't able to comprehend always how far we're going. So trying to adjust and make sure that things are expressed to them in a way that they can comprehend it and can participate and not feel left out. Because sometimes that's a stressor that comes up later, and they say, "Oh, I wish you had told me," or "I wish I was more prepared beforehand." And then I also have a young adult at Trinity who's, I guess, Trinity adjacent, because she's a friend of one of our young adults, who has fetal alcohol syndrome, and she usually needs quite a bit of support too, in finding work, or just the different emotional struggles and depression that she's had as well too. So it's kind of a mixed bag with different issues or things that come up. Yeah. Any other questions or thoughts?
So
Yeah.
I may be wrong, but I think from here, I think there's a lot of involved in Chinese.
Oh, sometimes, yeah.
Is that for you or the pastor? And are these people, like, I'm sure the parent, we always hear the story about the Chinese children that have to take, they have to be violent and virtuosos by the age of 5. And so are these a lot of people still kind of in that mindset of you've got to do
more
perfect in everything, because I think, and I guess, and dealing with that in context of other faith. Right?
Yes. I would say that that definitely has come up, and I do see it with certain families, that just with the sheer amount of activities and expectations that the parents have, it usually means just that the youth is only there on Sunday, maybe Bible study at the most, and then they're not participating in other things. Pastor Mark Chang told me that the word for that is a tiger mom or a tiger dad, of like trying to get their kids ahead. And I would say, yes, it is definitely present, and even in the mentalities of the kids too sometimes. When I first started, I was kind of shocked. I had a 10-year-old asking me how much I paid for a bounce castle. And I was like, what? Why do you care? Like, you're just going to bounce on it. But some of it is ingrained into their mentality, that they're already thinking about these things. Like, they want to be successful. They want to do great things in their life and be involved in things. So yeah.
Which can be a challenge, because success is such a huge, and the definition of success too, right?
Yes.
If you make a lot of money and you have a good job, you're successful. But like we talked about mental health challenges, if you have that, are you really?
Yeah, is it success or not?
It sounds like a challenging position.
Oh, thank you. It's by the grace of God, it has been a challenge, but I enjoy the challenge, if that makes sense. Like, I feel like I have a purpose in it. But yeah, I definitely do see a couple tiger moms, especially. And I'm sorry, I forgot my grandmother asked me to share this with you. I showed this to her. It's an object lesson. So one of the challenges with the kids is just trying to come up with new ideas and ways of teaching different things that is like more of a hands-on tactile learning.